Gwaihir the Windlord, swiftest of the great eagles, came unlooked for to Orthanc, and he found me standing on the pinnacle. Then I spoke to him and he bore me away, before Saruman was aware. I was far from Isengard ere the wolves and orcs issued from the gate to pursue us. While I was up there, borne aloft on the wings of this great eagle, a thought occurred to me of which I had never quite pondered before. This is a fantastic way to travel. 2,000 years in this Middle-earth, and I am now just realizing this. I gazed out across all the lands, towards the wolves on the ground who looked up at me. Almost no enemies can get me all the way up here, I thought. Why, this is incredible. And that is when this possibility occurred to me. I am a servant of Manwë. These are the messengers of Manwë. They come in and out of the great deeds of Middle-earth at their own choosing, and I cannot conceive of why. Gandalf continued, the Council of Elrond looking at him in wonder and disbelief. So I asked Gwaihir this very question. Why were you eagles so inconsistent, as if you were being used to get some people out of inescapable situations, but not some with others? It sounds like a conspiracy to me, I went on. And it was as I suspected. The eagles had been napping during some of these great events, but then they later acted like they were doing better things during these times. Seeing his guilt concerning these matters, I used this opportunity to be sassy, as I am wont to do. Come then, I thank you for saving me from the clutches of Isengard, but there is more you can do besides napping in your nests. Take me to Imladris, and then gather your kin and meet me there as soon as you are able. Gandalf sat back in his seat during his narration to the council, and the wizard looked pleased with himself. They should arrive any day now, and since it appears there is no other option, let us destroy the One Ring. Frodo, my lad, you should still carry it, but be thankful. I won't make you walk all the way to Mordor. Could you imagine? Besides, how would we even get into Mordor that way? I have no idea. Someone would probably die before we got there anyway. Bilbo sighed impassively, rubbing his feet with his hands and thinking about his adventure 60 years before. Well, it would have been nice if you had thought of that sooner, Gandalf, the old hobbit said under his breath. One does not simply fly into Mordor, Boromir said, shaking his head. Gandalf brushed him off. Indeed, it was thus decided by the Council of Elrond, there in those late days of 3018, that the One Ring would be carried by Frodo, who would go with Gandalf to be carried upon Gwaihir across Middle-earth, and the other eagles would carry companions to aid Frodo and divert the attention of Sauron. Elrond saw a lot of flaws in this strategy, and he said as much to Gandalf in the days of waiting. My friend of old, are you sure about this? But Gandalf denied him, holding up his hand. My lord Elrond, when you have walked as far as I have, in this old form nonetheless, you would be thankful for this. You sit here in Imladris all the time, you don't know what it's like. Also, your father sails through the sky on a ship as we speak, so I don't want to hear it. Elrond considered this and couldn't counter that point. And so Gwaihir and his kin arrived thusly from the Misty Mountains. Landroval, Meneldor, and 3 others came. Since there were only 6 great eagles, and Frodo had little need of others who themselves had not great power, the other hobbits were sent home back to the Shire. Only the most powerful who would volunteer were to take flight on the eagles. Aragorn, Glorfindel, Eladon and Elrohir, the sons of Elrond, and Boromir of Gondor, who was bound for Minas Tirith, all took flight upon the eagles, and the power of Glorfindel's spirit was quite welcome, as any hope for secrecy was utterly gone, as was common sense according to some. But the Fellowship of Flight left Imladris around December 25th of that year, and all the hopes of the West went with them. Many elves decided that, if this didn't work, they would go to the Grey Havens as soon as possible in order to sail west. For them, this had to be the greatest joke in the history of Middle-earth, but either way, they were out of here. As for the Fellowship of Flight themselves, they quickly made their way southeast, flying over the Misty Mountains. Gandalf looked down at the storm upon the mountain Carothras. He pointed to it so Frodo could see. See that? That right there. You would have had to walk through that. You're welcome. Quickly they came into Rovanion and went to Lothlorien, where they stopped for a rest. Gwaihir was still upset, thinking to himself that Gandalf had gained some weight as he bore him. Gwaihir took to solemnly staring at the ring-bearer with his piercing eyes, seeing him as no more than baggage. But as they slept that night, a creature came towards them, muttering to himself in the dark. Not fair, precious, not fair at all. Smeagol can't fly, he only eats birdses. But these birds are too big for us to eat, love. Oh, but we could still try. Unfortunately for Gollum and his stomach, he was unable to cross the bounds of Lorien, and in the morning he would be left far behind by Gandalf and the others, who took flight once more. Soon they would come to Minas Tirith, and Boromir, who had been riding upon his own eagle, was unable to secure the ring for himself, and so he was to rally an army and go to the Black Gate to cause a diversion while the eagles flew in. In the meantime, the Fellowship of Flight made ready to travel from Ithilien over the Mountains of Shadow straight to Mount Doom. One does not simply fly into Mordor. Yeah, I'll show him. Gandalf laughed under his breath. Since Boromir's eagle was now riderless, Gandalf and Frodo took to separate eagles at the request of Gwaihir, whose back was getting very tired. He also wanted to be as mobile as possible. Gandalf saw only good in this, and he was far more concerned about how he might convince or inspire Frodo to destroy the ring once they got there. So it was that Gwaihir, whose rider was Frodo, led the others once more in the sky, speeding towards Mount Doom, while Boromir led his force to the Black Gate in late December of that year. So the plan went into motion. From atop his dark tower, Sauron looked out and saw these 6 eagles, and the Dark Lord thought to himself then, "What in Morgoth's name is this?" In surprise by the blatant lack of stealth and strategy of his enemy, Sauron was taken unawares by this move, and Gandalf laughed to himself, even as the eagles made to land on the Mountain of Fire. But Gandalf told his friends to make haste, for the Nazgul were sure to come soon. Indeed, the Nazgul, who had been recently revived from the flood of the Bruinen River, took to their winged steeds and went straight for the 5 eagles at Mount Doom. Wait, 5 eagles? Gandalf looked around and Gwaihir was not in sight. He looked up to see the great eagle take the ring-bearer further to the northwest, into the clouds and shadow. "Oh no," Gandalf said under his breath. Frodo cried out in surprise as Gwaihir took him to the mountains of ash in the north. "Where are you going, Gwaihir? Mount Doom was right there!" Landing on the mountain top of a high peak, Gwaihir set Frodo down and stared at him, or rather, at the ring of power he carried. Gandalf was right. We could do more than just take naps. Frodo understood. The nearness of the ring had corrupted the will of this great and powerful eagle, and the evil was taking hold. In the end, the hobbit was no match for Gwaihir, and the eagle took the ring for his own, becoming the dark bird to rule them all. Hey everyone, Yoyston here, and I hope you all enjoyed that superior, unimpeachable, perfect telling of The Lord of the Rings. Also, happy April Fool's Day. Every year before or on April Fool's, I try to make a more fun or silly sort of video, and I hope you all had fun with this absurd and rather foolish video. In all honesty, this is a crazy exaggeration of the premise, as if the Eagles had taken Frodo to Mount Doom, this quest would have utterly failed, but probably in a much more boring way than my story here. But if you are curious on my more serious thoughts on this topic, please check out my video on it. But though this video was made in the spirit of April Fools, the conclusion would be the same. Either by corruption, a poisoned arrow, a winged Nazgul, or some other reason, this plan with the Eagles would definitely not have worked. However, I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to hit that like button and share this with a friend who you think may have a laugh. And let me know your thoughts in the comments. What are your theories about this topic? Thanks to our Valar tier patrons, Adrian De la Torre, Chris Ortner, Kyle Wetzel, Peter Sheppard, Jonathan Putin, Mark Kralik, Blair Scouten, Merton, John Hume, Sam McBee, Matt Sibbach, Elizabeth Calvert, Maz Gibbs, Ben Gardner, Kondar, Reese Jenkins, Adam Petrolik, Kuzan, Brandon Glidden, Molly Sullivan, Daniel Burns, Anthony Harmon, and Dorwin Gray. Thank you so much, and thanks to all of our patrons and YouTube members. The support means the world to me. Please subscribe and hit that bell button to join the Men of the West and all of the Free Peoples today. And I'll see you all again on Sunday with that 5 most powerful weapons in Middle-earth video. You all are the best, my friends. Thank you all so much for joining me on this adventure and for watching. Until the next one.